Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me for my second live stream of the day. My name is Red Baron. I am from FibbyCharts.com and from the UnfairAdvantage.chat. Thank you for joining us tonight. And we are rejoining somebody who we haven't spoke with for a while, Red Bear from Red Bear Reviews. He's part of our crew over at the UnfairAdvantage.chat. And normally we have a little thing we call Monday Night Crypto Chat. So we're going to be returning to a tradition that hopefully we'll be doing much, much more. It's been a busy time. We've kind of fallen off that a little bit. We're going to be getting back on the bandwagon with that. So tonight we're going to be talking about something that's very, very relevant to what's going on right now in the crypto space, and that is, where do we put our money while we're waiting for the big boom, the big crash, the big thing that's going to be happening here soon that we're all anticipating? Should you keep it in cash? Should you keep it in stable coins? Well, what's up with stable coins? Are they as stable as we think they are? Are they as safe as we think they are? So we're going to dive deep on that. We're going to talk about that, and you're going to learn a little something. So sit back and relax, listen to us go on and on about that. And we're also going to be covering, if there's some time, we're going to be covering the Polkadot network, which is an up and growing crypto network. That's something I think you guys are really going to like, and you're going to need to get to know, because as you longtime subscribers know, I have been a fan of Polkadot. Haven't been talking about it an awful lot lately, but we're going to be moving that one to the front of the conversation here for tonight. And so, without any further ado, how you doing, Red Bear?
I'm doing all right. How are you guys doing tonight? Pretty good night, huh?
Doing fine here. So we got to get some people in here on the chat. So let me go ahead and let's do a little bit of media coverage here and go ahead and let everybody know, because we had a false start for everybody that is just joining us here. I had a missed broadcast, so I think everybody's trying to wait for us to come in here. So hold on. So if you guys are in the chat, just let us know that you're in. I see we got some viewers, so just check in.
All right, cool.
I'll go ahead and move that stuff on. So if you want to go ahead and just get started, because this is going to be mostly a rebroadcast that people are going to do. So if you want to go ahead and start covering the stuff, I'll go ahead and put you over on the screen. So I'll do a screen share. All right. We've got Kent's in, Master's in. So let's go ahead and rock and roll here, and everybody else will just get caught up.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so what you guys need to know most and first and foremost about stablecoins is that stablecoins are not nearly as secure as most people think they are. So most people think that they're as good as USD, and USD is as good as fiat, and fiat is as good as whatever the current administration says it is, as much as they print it. But what you guys have to understand about stablecoins is that each one has a little bit something different about it. So tonight we're going to be covering USDT, BUSDT, or BUSD, TUSD, DAI, D-A-I, and Ampleforth. These are all different types of stablecoins. Each one has a different type of purpose. Each one has a different type of way of actually achieving stability versus the dollar. So to get back to the beginning here, you have to know about collateralization. So when it comes to stablecoins, they have to have collateral, right? So you have something that's supposedly said to be worth $1. You have to have some way to reimburse that, similar to how the gold standard was back before Nixon. You could go in and reimburse $1 for how much the equivalent would be in gold or silver. Well, you can do that similarly with stablecoins, supposedly. Now, most people don't actually ever reimburse it, but the idea that you can is what gives it value. Now, when it comes to collateralization, there's different types. So, for instance, USDT is what most people know about. USDT is not collateralized as the same way as, for instance, BUSD or USDC or TUSD. Tether, which is the most famous, most used of the stablecoins, is actually collateralized through something in a way of like a basket of assets, is what they're calling it. But this basket of assets is not necessarily healthy for the intended purpose of Tether. So when you think about Tether, what are you thinking about? You're thinking about, well, it's a way for me to trade out when the market's going down, right? Well, they built this system, so you have to realize that there's traps involved. Tether is one of those traps. So I want to play a little bit of a scenario here for you. Let's just pretend. Okay, so I'm an elite. I'm sitting at a table of another elite, right? And you're developing a system, a new financial system for which you're going to import the entire world. And that system is blockchain. All right. So you're creating a new system. You have to pour the old system into the new system. Thus, anyone who buys the new system before the old system is poured into it is now an instant millionaire. They're an instant billionaire, potentially, and they're going to be one of you. Well, as we know, the elite do not like competition. They don't like anyone being in their club but them. So how are they going to build this system so that they stay in power and you don't? Well, the elite says to the other elite and says, hey, so we're building the system, but we're creating all these other rich people. How are we going to stop this from happening? Because the last thing we want is for the slaves to have their own money, their own ability to get outside of our system. The other one says, well, we'll just build the trap. That's what we always do. We always just build a trap. Okay, so what's that trap? It's Tether. Now, why? Because of this specific point here. And this is something that you're going to have to really pay attention to here. 65% here is in commercial trade. This is when they actually released this. This is because of this lawsuit they had in New York. Basically, they got slapped with a $20 million fine, which is nothing because this is a multi-billion company. And they were given a $20 million fine and basically having to report their holdings. Well, what happened when they released their holdings is you can look and you can see that 65%, this was back then, this is 49% here, but this was when they first released it was 65%, so this number moves around a little bit, but what you're seeing here is 65% is in what amounts to essentially corporate debt. So, as you see right here, they say it right here.
Oh, excuse me.
So corporate debt is something that's not going to do well during an economic downturn. Do you think there's going to be a lot of extra money that you can cash in when, the entire world's economy gets cut in half because, say, there's a financial crisis due to a dollar crash or any other kind of crash? No, these toxic assets are just going to break down Tether at this exact moment that you need it. So think about this. Like you see a crash on the horizon. You go into USDT to protect yourself. And then the crash happens, and now you go to trade your USDT for, say, whatever currency crypto you just traded out of, and your USDT isn't worth $1 right now. Well, why is that? Well, it might be because they just had to liquidate or default, or they just lost half of their collateral through this debt that they just posted for their collateral. I mean, it's a perfect rug pull that they've built, and nobody even knows about it. It's the craziest thing. Most people talk about it, they say, oh, hey, it's brought down by the government. It's going to be brought down by the legal system. It doesn't look like that to me. It looks like they can just leave it alone, and it'll bring down the whole market by itself, just because all they have to do is bring down the traditional market, and it brings down the crypto market with it.
And as you and I were discussing before the broadcast, who do you point the finger at? Well, things like this happen. Well, who do we blame? There's nobody. There's no face to put on this.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And it's the perfect way to wipe out the new money, because you don't have to get all of the new money. You just have to make sure you get enough of it so they're not a threat. Really, that's just how they're going to do it. They're going to try to hit you 30 different ways. Taxes, trying to get you on.
Yeah, they're making moves on the taxes, aren't they? They're definitely running hard at us on the taxes lately. With the what is it, 49% proposed.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's absolutely ridiculous. But it's all just the ways of trying to prevent new money from being created in this time, because they know, because they were the people who benefited the most during the Great Depression, that the most money is made during Great Depressions.
During hard times, correct.
Yeah, exactly. Because you just buy out what everybody can't afford to hold on to anymore, and you can buy it for pennies on the dollar. And then you just turn around and you hold on to it and you sell it.
Right, and that happened. I've seen that happen as kind of an aside to kind of bolster that point. The last time we had this happen is not that far back as 2008 to 2010. That last collapse that we had. I personally, in real estate, which is somewhat related, I know 10 new millionaires that were not millionaires before that all happened. So every single catastrophe creates a whole bunch of new rich people if they're plugged in and if they have the right line. And so, yeah, that's absolutely correct.
Mm-hmm. And that's what we're trying to get here. We're trying to get here with Fibby charts. We're trying to make sure we can become the people who are the millionaires without having to lose that to the old system.
You don't want to stick it to the man in this case. You want to be the man. So that's what we're trying to do.
Exactly. So that kind of covers Tether. as you can see, it's not really a secure thing, and I don't think the angle that most people are going after it with the legal situation. I don't really think that's how it's going to be, because they've had the opportunity back in New York when they did the $20 million fine. They could look at these guys' stuff, and they saw what they saw, and they saw that it was not stable, it was not correctly collateralized, and they let it go with a tiny fine.
Yeah.
So that should tell you something.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's go and cover some other stablecoins. So, in stark contrast to USDT, there's USDC. Most people know this as the normal alternative to USDT. So USDC is Coinbase's coin. It stands for USD coin, right? It's redeemable on Coinbase with no fees, which is pretty good. It's fully backed 1-to-1 with cash in FDIC-backed banks, and we all know, if we're into this red pill journey, that the FDIC has nowhere near enough cash to actually back up those banks. So take that into mind when you actually go into USDC. It's not 100% safe, but neither is the money in your bank account. So keep all of this in mind. And then you also have to be able to notice with this, they can blacklist addresses. So don't be doing anything illegal. We don't condone doing anything illegal, but definitely don't be doing anything illegal with USDC, because they can take all your money without any kind of warning.
Very quickly. And that ties in, if not a lot of people make the connection, that ties in very well with the idea that they're watching now these lesser deposits down to $600. Oh, you best believe they're going to be watching Coinbase. They're going to be watching that stuff. And so you make a very valid point in talking about they can shut it off and or seize it. Seize it is the more important thing. This stuff's digital. Yep. If you got the keys, basically, that's all it takes. So, yes, it is absolutely... Go ahead.
This is how they can do it, though. They can blacklist you if it's on your personal. So, for instance, if you have USDC on MetaMask or your Ledger or your any of those personal wallets that you even do have the private keys to, they can still blacklist your address.
Yep.
On USDC. So that is the concern. They can't take your money if it's not in their wallet, but they can stop you from actually getting your money. That's the issue. And that can be eventually, part of the control mechanism. You have USDC, but you have it in your private wallet. Well, you didn't pay your taxes, so now we're going to freeze your account. That kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. I fully expect that.
Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen. We're going to see a conflict between anonymization and this kind of behavior, but it really is going to come down to, do you have access to markets?
And
as long as
undoubtedly,
you have access to markets, you'll have value.
Undoubtedly, this will tie to our version of a social credit score, undeniably.
Oh, yeah. We already have one in America. I don't want to get too much into that area because I know that YouTube doesn't like that, but yeah, we already have one.
Yeah.
Just try to speak your mind in any kind of public place and see how far you can get.
Exactly.
Yep. So the USDC is a little bit more secure than Tether. Tether is the obvious rug pull. USDC is if the whole system goes down, including the banks and starting bail-ins, then you have to worry about that. BUSD, Binance's Binance's stablecoin, is similar in the regard that they are fully backed with 1-to-1. They are actually pretty cheap gas since they're on Binance Smart Chain. They're also regulated. This is an interesting point that I found. They're regulated in compliance with the regulations laid out by the New York State Department of Financial Services.
This is USDC you're talking about?
The NYSDFS, this is what it's called. And it's the same department that actually went after Tether. So they saw what happened to Tether, and they actually decided to make sure that their stablecoin was compliant in every single type of way that was laid out by the NYSDFC.
This is USDC you're talking about?
This is BUSD.
Okay.
So this is Binance's.
Going back one step, I had one other question before you get off USDC.
Sure.
How do you see, this was my first thought. When I heard that, this whole XRP thing that's going on now, it's very clear the SEC is winding down. They're looking for some smaller kid to go bully, and it appears to be Coinbase. Well, since USDC and Coinbase are indelibly tied, how do you see that affecting USDC?
Well, that's actually a good question. I was going to cover this, but I'll cover this now. Because was actually seeing was that recently Coinbase has come out and actually started to try to offer lending
Correct.
as a part of their platform, and that was immediately the SEC just like went after them.
No
like,
bueno
no.
on that. Yeah, I saw that. And I wondered if I thought, man, if you can get by with that, guys, God bless you. But I kind of saw that one coming.
Yep. So what they were trying to do is they were actually trying to compete with protocols like Aave and Lend,
Mm-hmm.
but obviously the SEC doesn't like those protocols either. But they can't do anything about those. Otherwise, they would be right now.
Right.
Because if you're going to go after if you're going to go after Coinbase, why wouldn't you go after these other companies that do the exact same thing? Well, probably because they're DAO. So good luck trying to prove a DAO is a security. But what I'm trying to cover here, specifically when it comes to this potential for lawsuit, that could be an issue. Not because they have a case, but because the SEC likes to do court cases against companies that are stepping on its potential toes, apparently. I mean, it seems more like the SEC is an attack dog to the old system, and not the old system that the ruling class has created to actually get us into. But, there's factions within these old systems. So you're probably thinking of, like, the old guard that doesn't want to move into the crypto space. That's probably who the SEC is currently
I would agree
for.
with that.
But I don't think they're going to win because overall, their bosses, their powers that be don't want them to stay in that system. They'll let them win for the time being, cause a lot of noise, but when push comes to shove, they'll knuckle under and go with a new system just like everybody else. So that's the threat that I see going to USDC, just from a malicious lawsuit perspective from the SEC.
How long do you think that we're going to be in a situation where we're probably going to have to be worried about the stability of our stable coins? Do you see it being anywhere from about 1 to 3 years?
Well, see, that's the question. It really comes down to exchanges and utilization of CBDCs and like digital currencies for state actors. That's really what I see as the main threat.
Mm-hmm.
They'll have to figure out a way to do a smooth transition because I cannot imagine the system being able to easily transfer from stablecoins to CBDCs without having some kind of period in which those are interchangeable. If they just try to like slam CBDCs in there, I don't see that really working because too many people are going to get too angry and just refuse to use that because the value of their stablecoins is going to go through the floor. They'll just be like, no, I'm not using that. So they need to figure out a way to get those be able to you can buy these. Maybe you can buy those offers an investment opportunity, and they'll eventually start to flatline it out. Maybe that will be their kind of thing. They'll have initial investment period where you can buy these CBDCs and trying to get as many people into them as possible. They'll pump up the price, they'll flatline it to make it stable, and then that might be what they try to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see stablecoins going away because it's just too built into the system. They need to have stablecoins. Because if you don't have stablecoins, you have nothing to trade against. You can trade against BTC, but BTC is the dictator of the market. It's not like if BTC goes down, the rest of the market's going down too. It's
correct.
It's just not a good.
Well, people.
Good way to actually
the
have
essence of that. The essence of that argument is people always want a set thing to jump into. Back in the old days, that was gold and silver. So that's not easily done in the digital world. So yeah, I agree completely. So anyway, sorry I didn't pull you off task there. So go ahead and get back to your next point.
Okay. So as you can see, DUSD and the USDC are pretty similar in regards to both exchange cryptos. There's a few of these. There's even a Gemini coin, GUSD. GUSD is actually a little more sketchy. They've never released any of their what their holdings is made up of. It's kind of a trust me thing. But Gemini, if you guys have been following this channel for a while, Gemini is probably rhymes with ARPA, starts with a D. Try not to get flagged too much.
They like robots a lot.
Yeah, they like robots a lot. Yes, and also it's top secret government research. Anyway, that's probably what Gemini is. So they don't really need to do anything by any of the books that anybody else has to do.
No.
Yeah. So one of the interesting new kind of subcoins that are coming into the market now is actually called DAI. This is actually older but it's new in the sense of it's not how most people think of coins when they think of coins with collateralization through USD collateral. DAI actually has crypto collateral. So they collateralize, they over collateralize all their positions just by necessity, usually about 50%. So it's highly collateralized positions, usually in highly stable, relatively speaking, coins such as Ethereum. And that is how they create their loaning protocol on the MakerDAO platform. And that's how DAI is created. DAI is created through, for instance, ETH collateralization. You put in this much ETH, you get this much DAI out, and then you can use that DAI to then make trades. And then potentially, if you do good on those trades, it's kind of like leverage. If you do good on those trades, then you can go pay back that initial investment. And that's kind of how you do leverage, for instance, on like decentralized finance. So you can take out loans instead of doing it through exchanges, and you'll never get liquidated, but you will have to worry. I mean, you will get liquidated. That's wrong. You'll get liquidated, but it'll only be by the agreements that you've made when you first set up the contract. So that DAI, yes, DAI. Let's see here. I'll show it on my screen too. So DAI actually works through many collateralizations. So you can collateralize, assets, both physical, non-physical, all these kind of things. Most of the assets are obviously are non-physical right now in the Ethereum blockchain. But DAI is actually one of those ones that is, ironically, is probably one of the most secure cryptocurrencies because there's no way to legally attack it because it's a DAO. You have to prove that somehow it's a corporation, but it's not. And then you also, all of the collateralization is right there in front of you. It's publicly available. It's no third-party risk really. All you have to worry about is the Ethereum prices tanking so much that somehow all your collateral gets liquidated, which is not really likely if you have to over-collateralize all your positions almost 50%. If you're talking about like getting cut in half, it's pretty unlikely for Ethereum. Maybe it could happen, but at the same time, if you treat it like leverage, then that's a risk you take.
Correct.
But this is a stablecoin that you can get, and then as a result, DAI is tradable, so you don't even have to take out a loan. You can just literally go and own and possess DAI, and DAI is as good as a stablecoin as USDT or USDC. Obviously, there's less trading pairs. That's one of the reduced positions of it. But over time, we'll probably see a lot more trading pairs come onto the market. Especially if there's a protocol that actually makes it so you can, do any kind of stablecoin with a trade. That would be interesting. I haven't seen that yet, but that would be an interesting stablecoin or an interesting protocol. But to go on, we're going to cover one more here, and that's actually, this is kind of a bizarre take on stablecoins. It's very speculative. I actually was into this specific coin I'm going to talk about here for a while, but I got out of it just because it was so chaotic, and that is called algorithmically non-collateralized. That's a mouthful. Algorithmically non-collateralized stablecoins.
Not to be confused with algo, correct?
Yes, not to be confused with algo. So algorithmically non-collateralized stablecoins are stablecoins that are actually stable through math. So for instance, how Ampleforth works, and each one works differently because it's, it's basically price discovery. How can you find the way to create an algorithm to create the most stable price possible for a protocol? So how Ampleforth works, for instance, is you buy it, it's Ethereum chain coin, you buy it, you put it in your account, you own a percentage of the total pot. That's how it works. So most people think of coins, they think, I have a set amount of coins in my wallet. When the price of the individual coin goes up, the value in my wallet goes up, correct? Well, Ampleforth actually works opposite of that. So the amount of coins in your wallets is not fixed. It fluctuates based on the price. So the price is always trying to be of each individual token $1. So the amount of tokens in your wallet, the total market cap, the total market supply, I should say, of the tokens actually varies depending on the market cap of the token. So that the price is always $1. So you can have 100 Ampleforth in your wallet one day, 150 the next, 75 the next day after that. And the idea is that it's always $1. Now, in practice, and I'll show you an example of a graph here. In practice, that doesn't really work out so well. This is part of why I got out of it. As you can see, the price is not that stable. You're talking about 50%, 100% moves regularly. Now, arguably, you could say the amount of coins in your wallet adjusts so that you're always about break even, but that is not actually totally the case because there's time gaps in there. This is a algorithm that's based on time, so the price can spike up and the amount of coins in your wallet isn't going to change, right? And then the price can come down. So there's a lag in the system, and there's still ways to lose a lot of money in this. And I don't think the algorithmically induced stablecoins are really going to work out for the future just because of the natural volatility of the market. Now, if for instance, Ampleforth were, say, in a $100 trillion market, there'd probably be a lot less volatility just because of the nature of the size of the market. But, as its purpose for right now, these kind of speculative stablecoins or algorithmic are not going to work because you just need something that's flat, completely flat, it never does anything up and down, because when you're talking about stablecoins, you don't want to lose 5% of your buying power, from one trade to the next just because of a price jump. So that is I've just covered all the main different types of collateralization. You have the fiat collateralized, like I said, with USDT, USDC, and BSD. You have the crypto-collateralized, which is DAI. You have the algorithmically non-collateralized, which is Ampleforth. And then I should mention this one first before I move on. Then you have the hybrid stablecoins, which is like reserve rights currency and stuff like that. And these ones, they basically make a basket of assets similar to USDT, but the assets are supposed to be real-world assets. They're supposed to be healthy because they're trying to build a healthy network. So, for instance, housing, that kind of stuff. That's what they're trying to buy. They're trying to back up everything in commodities, basically. But that's an example of a hybrid stablecoin. These stablecoins, they could do well, they could not do well. It really depends on the investment foresight of the person who's in charge of running the account for these stablecoins, to be honest. But yeah, that's covering most stablecoins. So now, if you guys want, we can get into.
I did have one question from one of our guys in chat. Said, can they just blacklist your DAI like they could like they would with USDT? I think is what he meant.
DAI is unblacklistable. That's what part of why I like it, because DAI is decentralized. There's no person to blacklist.
Now that is in theory. I can tell you that that's a bit of a false sense of security, because what you must understand is the purpose of a lot of these cryptos is eventually, for now, we're still in a fiat based world. They'll always get you at the wellhead, guys. If you're using Coinbase, any coin you're using and coming through crypto or coming through Coinbase, they'll get you at the wellhead. And so it doesn't really matter what kind of coin you got. So you can still be blacklisted. So I don't want anybody to get the idea that you can't be blacklisted, that your stuff can't be seized, because that's why they're making moves on these exchanges right now, is because they realize that there's a whole dark market out there of exchanges like simpleswap.io and whatever that exist out there that they can't directly get their hands on as easy, but they can get you when you move that new coin back to something and try to turn it to fiat. So don't get the false sense of security that you can't get blacklisted or that your stuff can't get seized. I want to make sure that's always part of this discussion. But as he said, yes, that is true. They can't just dive into your wallet, but if you should possibly want to take that wallet and dump it onto someplace like Coinbase, you can get grabbed, correct?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's actually how they blacklist coins or wallets in the first place. Is usually they see some kind of wallet that's known, like
network connection.
Don't hack this wallet.
Right.
And then they'll just flag anyone who does any business with that wallet, and then you'll get blacklisted just by association, basically.
Yeah.
So that's part of the issue. and we'll figure out ways around this in the future as well. I mean, this is a constant battle between privacy and tyranny. So it's going to be a long, drawn out. We'll see more protocols come out that help to deal with this kind of stuff. So we'll just see. But when it comes to stablecoins, DAI is in my opinion, even though it's relatively unknown, is probably the best. That's just my non-financial advice, but that's just my opinion.
I would agree.
USDC is good too, but DAI is the least susceptible to any kind of attack.
Okay.
Okay, so covering DOT now. So DOT is actually a really interesting protocol. I like it a lot. I'm sure a lot of you guys know about it right now. DOT is the interoperable blockchain. It's developed by one of those guys who is part of the Ethereum Foundation. Now, kind of similar to Cardano's Charles Hoskinson's. He was part of the Ethereum Foundation, one of the core developers. DOT's the same thing. Now, DOT, a lot of people heard about it. A lot of people know what it does, but I don't think a lot of people realize how much a gold mine it is, because specifically, DOT has the ability to connect all of the blockchains together. So when you're talking about in the eyes of value, who makes the most money in a transaction? The person who buys a product, the person who sells a product, or the person who carries all products from point A to point B? Obviously, it's the person who carries all products from point A to point B. It's why Amazon has its own post delivery system. It's why the Postmaster General, all that kind of stuff. Why Great Britain was the supreme king of the entire world, because they owned the merchants, they owned the seas, they owned the trading ports, they owned everything. So if you are a person who wants to, say, take one coin from one side of the blockchain to another side of the blockchain space, the best way to do it is going to be through Polkadot. Why? Because Polkadot has this. Here's a circle. This is how they actually operate. I'm going to show you how it operates here right now. Actually, most blockchains kind of operate in a line. Polkadot does too, but Polkadot actually operates as a node. That's how I would say it operates. So each one of these squares here is a blockchain. And these blockchains are actually called parachains. So each parachain has a different coin associated with it. And that coin allows it to interact with, through this circle here, every other blockchain that is currently onboarded into the Polkadot system. So basically what you have here is one central node that allows access to every other onboarded blockchain. And as a result of these parachains, because there's a limited amount of parachains, because there's a limited amount of processing power in the world, so they have to limit the amount of parachains that are available so they don't get, like, for instance, random meme coins on the parachain. That doesn't serve any purpose. You need to have functional utility tokens on the parachain. And how that works is through community-driven voting, similar to how validator nodes work. I've covered this before, but I'll just go over it really quick soon, just right now. So validator nodes work through, you have a coin, you stake your coin into a node, and that node basically provides security to the system through running validation on the transactions that are happening, right? So you're staking to the node, you're giving that node your vote of approval, saying this node is actually doing something that I want it to do, and that's how we maintain the integrity of the network. Same thing happens with parachains. So you stake your tokens to these parachains, and these parachains run your security. It basically runs, it votes and says, yeah, that's good. And how this will work is to draw all of the cryptocurrencies together to give them access to, for instance, lending protocols. You can have one of these tokens. For instance, this one could be like Aave. It's not going to be Aave because there's other coins on this protocol that are actually coded specifically for DOT, but let's just go with Aave here. For instance, if Aave rewrote its code and was in DOT code instead of this code, you could then use this token, right? Aave, you could get a loan, then you could take that loan out. You could then go to any other blockchain on the network and deposit that loan. Seems pretty useful if you're trying to buy something on an obscure chain, for instance. That is why DOT is so valuable. And then another note, right? This is actually an interesting thing specifically about how DOT works. DOT has auctions where you can actually put down specific collateral and actually get access to one of these parachains. During these parachain run-ups, these parachain auctions, you'll see tremendous price explosions. I'll show you an example of one here, back from a little while ago, but it was called Bifrost. They got a parachain, and their price exploded in a huge way. So this is Bifrost. They're a lending protocol for Bitcoin.
Your resolution is really, really low. Maybe I can bring it up on my screen here. What are you looking at?
Okay.
Yeah, I assume you're on CoinGecko?
Yep, CoinGecko.
Hang on just a second.
Mm.
Give me the ticker symbol and all. I can't even see your ticker.
BFC.
BFC?
Yep.
All right, hang on a second here. All right, there we go. Now you're looking better. Okay.
Okay. So Bifrost is a lending protocol for Bitcoin. Basically, it's similar to Aave, but you lend almost exclusively in Bitcoin. And if you go back in time here, go to the 30-day on the chart price.
Okay, your screen is actually clean now. For whatever reason, you're getting. I've got you.
Okay.
I don't know what happened there, but okay, go ahead. Go ahead. It's on your screen now. Excuse me. Allergy season. Think I lost your audio. Give me just a second, guys. I think we lost his audio here. There we go. You on?
All right. Yep, I got you.
All right.
All right. So as you can see here with the BFC price chart here, that huge spike up, that's when they got their parachain. Now, they've sold off a lot since then, but if you can time that, you can get it in on one of these coins when it gets this parachain actually chosen. This was on Kusama, by the way. This wasn't even DOT. So Kusama is the testnet for DOT. FYI, just in case you guys didn't know. It's a live testnet that you can buy and trade. It's not like Ethereum's testnet, which is just its own network. You can't really run it. You can't buy it or sell it or anything. This is a public testnet that you can buy and trade. And there's quite a price run up, but it has no inherent value of its own, except for what people say it has. It's not even supposed to be the main network, but it's popular. So it's interesting that you can see this. If it gets a parachain on Kusama, price goes up almost, I think 300% or so. It's pretty good. Actually, how much? No, that went up, 300% about. That's pretty good. And if you bought it even lower, that's 400%. And that's just the first pump. So you're talking about the Kusama pump. What happens when it gets on the DOT? You know, you're talking about just a candy shop. You know, it's just going to be like you just pick these coins and then they just make money as soon as they get their parachain. So that's why I think the DOT angle is actually going to be quite good from an investment perspective. Just finding good coins that haven't got their parachains yet and just waiting for them to get their parachains. As time goes on, they're going to get more and more flushed out, and then you have access to the whole crypto space. So all of these coins that are running currently on individual tokens, networks, and stuff like that, they're either going to try to get a parachain or they're just going to try to make the most of it on their own network. But the network that's going to gain the most in terms of explosive growth, I think, is going to be DOT, just because of its ability to access every other chain. And DOT has already gained a lot of value, as you can see, and it's probably going to go even more as people discover it more. It's kind of similar to Sol. And then what you're going to see is probably it's going to have such a high market value that it's going to be kind of like Bitcoin.
Yeah, DOT is in the last,
a big point in buying it.
give or take, in the last, in the last 60 days, we've looked at a run up of about 230 to 240%, give or take.
Yep. And the price is still relatively low. I mean, look at Solana; it's almost at $200 right now.
Oh, very much. Yeah.
This is $34. Yeah. So it's in terms of what Solana does and what DOT does. DOT is just not as developed yet, and that's why the price isn't as high, because they haven't gotten their parachains running yet. They haven't really gotten the full development yet, but that's what Kusama's for, and that's why you're going to see a lot of development if you pay attention on the Kusama network, and that's going to be ported over into the DOT network. So if you want to pay attention to DOT, pay attention to Kusama, and you'll see what's going on, and you'll be able to see how to invest ahead of time. So I don't want to give away the whole goose here, because I'm going to be doing a video on this one specifically, but needless to say, I would keep an eye out for DOT, keep an eye out on DOT projects, because you're going to see a lot of value locked up in there. It's going to be a long-term good investment, in my opinion.
And by long-term,
So, yeah.
generally what we mean by long-term is anywhere from 3 to 4 years.
Yes,
Generally speaking.
because DOT is not really going to be mainstreaming stuff until 2023 anyway. So they're not going to be really. It's going to be like one of those projects, like, oh, you buy this, you hold it for a few years, and then all of a sudden you got 100x kind of thing. So it's a good deal if you can wait.
Okay. All right. What else you got?
So, well, I mean, I can cover a little bit of what is on the DOT network that most people don't know about.
Yeah, give us
DOT actually
a
has
quick
lot of-
synopsis. Don't give away too much, because for you guys that are new to the live stream, please like and subscribe to us, because if you like what you're listening to, Red Bear does deep dives we call Red Bear Reviews, and so we're hoping to build a library of all the major coins that we track and trace, plus a few that we're going to be tracking and tracing. So if you want to know a little bit more about the really deep dives, are really in-depth on this coin, we have something coming out specifically addressing just that. So please be sure to like and subscribe and get notifications. Not only that, but I get and tell my stories and do my crypto analysis and crypto therapy and that sort of thing. So you get me as a bonus. Not that that's necessarily a bonus. But. All right, go ahead and hit us with a brief review on it.
Sure. Okay, so some good coins that are on Polkadot that you might not know of is Reef. Reef is one of them. It's not technically on Polkadot, but it's going to be integrated so close with Polkadot that it'll be almost like head of Parachain. They're trying to do their own protocol basically, but they're trying to do the same thing that DOT's doing, just with a specific type of focus. And as we talked about before, they're going to be incredibly successful with it, but it's going to take a little bit of time. And the fact that they're trying to get with DOT by integrating with DOT protocols, like parachains that already exist, not getting their own parachain, but integrating with parachains, you're going to see some really interesting development with that as DOT gets more fleshed out over time. Then there's also, you can see Bifrost, which that one's kind of a little bit high already. I wouldn't be buying it now, but the idea is that you get coins like these. You just pick them, you just sit on them until they get their parachain. Another one example of this is actually Ocean Protocol. It's not on DOT yet, but it's intended to be on DOT. And Ocean Protocol is a really popular one that I think a lot of people have heard of, but I don't think they really realize what it does. It works like kind of like Chainlink in the sense that it sells metadata. It's like a marketplace for metadata. And if it's on DOT, you're talking about the ability to source information on price findings, certain types of maybe insurance. Like if, for instance, there's a storm in a certain area and there's an insurance protocol that kicks off, then you can get the data for that there on this Ocean Protocol. So it's a way to actually sell data to other protocols.
I've actually got Ocean up on the screen right now, and I'm just kind of musing to myself, because you remember not that long ago when we were looking at Ocean at 3 cents? Just
exactly.
as I don't want to date this video because I want to make this somewhat timeless. However, it is 9/13/2021, and you guys that understand live stream and my analysis, I am looking at what I would classically define as a sleeper. This thing is about ready to wake up.
There you go.
So it jives very, very well with what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, basically, yeah, it's on DOT. It's a major thumbs up in terms of investment future. So just keep an eye, like I was saying, just keep an eye. If you see it, it's got connections to DOT, tied in DOT, it's doing something that no other protocol is doing, or it's doing something that other protocols are doing, but it's on DOT. That's a good sign. That's a very good sign. Looks like it's going to do a BART, huh? That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, that. Now let's see what the percentage is on this. This is not a call, guys. This is just me messing around while Bear's talking. But that looks to me to be about a very, very doable 24-25% run. If we have, and I'm not suggesting that yet, but again, not to pull too far off of the mainstream here. A sleeper is defined as a flat line that always gets a hiccup. There's the hiccup. So we could go for another week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, get on into the later part of, or the early part of October, as I predicted to be the launch point. You could very well see this be a sleeper. It will play out like a sleeper. We could get another 2 weeks of flat line, and then all of a sudden she wakes up running. So keep that in the back of your mind, guys, because you heard it here first. All right, you got anything else for us, or do we need to wrap it up and stick a fork in it?
I think we're good for now. I don't want to give away everything.
All right, so let's go ahead and do that. And again, so if you guys are liking what you hear here, again, my name is Red Baron. That was Red Bear from Red Bear Reviews. If you'd like to join us, please do so at the unfairadvantage.chat. Of course, like and subscribe to our live stream here. And if you'd like to subscribe to these AI-powered charts that you're watching me fiddle with as he talks, you can do that at fibbycharts.com. And you can just simply go right here where it says subscribe. Pick a level if you'd like to know about more levels, what's involved, what do you get with every single package. You can go ahead and do that. But no charge to be a part of our Discord at the unfairadvantage.chat. So we'd love to have you with us. Until then, I'll bid you the same way I always do. Be safe, be good, and be good at it. Peace and hair grease, baby.